A young millionaire finds two little twins praying at his wife's grave in the middle of winter. But when he hears what they whisper, he freezes and starts to cry. The biting winter wind whipped through the headstones of Greenwood Memorial Gardens, tearing away the last dry leaves clinging stubbornly to the branches of the trees. Jack Thompson adjusted his cashmere scarf around his neck, more out of habit than necessity. The cold he felt came from within, a chill no piece of expensive clothing could ease. It had been exactly 1 year since Sarah passed away. 1 year since his world fell apart in a series of hospital beeps and sympathetic looks from the medical staff. The soles of his Italian shoes crunched against the gravel of the winding path leading to the Thompson family mausoleum, a route he could now walk with his eyes closed after so many visits. But today, something felt different. Still several yards away from Sarah's grave, Jack noticed unusual movement. Two small figures stood before the white marble headstone. Children. Twins, from what he could tell, with matching light hair and navy blue coats. They couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. Jack slowed his pace, an odd sensation creeping into his chest. Who were these children? Why would they be visiting his wife's grave? His fingers instinctively tightened around the bouquet of white roses he was carrying, Sarah's favorites. The boys were whispering to each other, oblivious to his presence. Jack crept closer, partially hidden behind an ancient cypress. "Do you think Aunt Sarah can see us from here, Noah?" asked one of the boys, adjusting a glove that kept slipping. "Of course she can, Ethan. Mom said that from heaven. She can see everything," the other replied, with the certainty only children possess. Jack felt his heart skip a beat. Aunt Sarah. A whirlwind of thoughts flooded his mind, and a possibility he hadn't dared consider for years began to take shape. "You know," Noah continued, pulling something from his coat pocket, "I made a drawing for her. Want to see?" Ethan moved closer to his brother as he unfolded a colorful piece of paper. "It's pretty. Did you draw her with wings?" "Yes, because now she's an angel. Mom always says Aunt Sarah was an angel even before she went to heaven." Jack watched the scene, frozen in place. Every word from these children felt like a painful revelation, reopening wounds he thought had healed. "Do you think—" Ethan hesitated, his voice trembling slightly. "Do you think she can help, Mom?" Noah put an arm around his brother's shoulders. "That's why we came here today, right? To ask her for help." The twins knelt simultaneously on the cold grass, their small hands interlaced. Jack's chest tightened as he watched them close their eyes and begin to pray. "Aunt Sarah," Noah started, his childish voice carrying a touching seriousness. "We never met you, but Mom always talks about you. She said you were the kindest person in the world, and that you always helped everyone," Ethan added. That's why we came to ask, can you help our mom? She's really sick. The doctors said she needs a new kidney," Noah continued, squeezing his brother's hand tighter. "We don't really know what that means, Gar, but Mom's always tired and sad. And sometimes she cries alone in her room," Ethan said, his own voice quavering. "We pretend we don't see so she won't feel worse." Jack felt tears rolling down his cheeks before he even realized he was crying. They weren't the silent, controlled tears he'd shed at Sarah's funeral, but deep sobs that shook his entire body. Emily, his sister, was ill, gravely ill, and her children, nephews he hadn't even known existed, were here, praying at Sarah's grave, asking for a miracle. "Please, Aunt Sarah," the twins said together, "help our mom get better." Noah carefully placed the drawing on the grave, anchoring it with a small stone so the wind wouldn't blow it away. The children stayed like that for a few more moments in silence, still holding hands. "Ethan, Noah," a woman's voice called from a distance. "It's time to go." The boys stood up quickly, making a small bow to the grave before running toward the voice. Through his tears, Jack watched them head toward a female figure waiting by the cemetery gate. Even from a distance, even after all this time, his heart recognized that silhouette. Emily, his sister. When he finally composed himself enough to approach the grave, his eyes were immediately drawn to the drawing the twins had left behind. With trembling fingers, he picked it up and unfolded it. It was a simple depiction, drawn in crayon. a blonde-haired woman wearing a white dress and wings, hovering above four other figures, two small ones holding hands with a taller woman lying in what looked like a hospital bed. The world he'd so carefully built over the past years, a world of business, success, and self-imposed solitude, began to crumble in light of this unexpected revelation. Sarah wasn't just his wife. She was also the sister-in-law who had always tried to keep the family together, even when he and Emily had drifted apart after that devastating argument. Jack carefully placed the drawing in the inside pocket of his coat. The white roses, now slightly battered, were gently laid on the headstone. "Help me do the right thing, my love," he whispered to Sarah, touching the cold marble one last time before turning away. He had a lot of work to do. He needed to find out where Emily lived, how bad her condition really was, how to approach this reunion after so many years of silence. But for the first time since Sarah's death, Jack Thompson felt something other than emptiness. Hope. The winter sun was beginning to set on the horizon, painting the sky with orange hues that made the headstones cast long shadows across the frozen grass. A new chapter was about to begin, born from an unexpected encounter on a cold winter afternoon, and from the innocent prayers of two children who, without knowing it, had deeply touched the heart of an uncle they had never met. Jack barely slept that night. The twins' drawing remained on his nightstand, the childish figures illuminated by the lamp he couldn't bring himself to turn off. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the little twins kneeling by Sarah's grave, their voices echoing in his mind. "Mom's really sick." At 5 in the morning, he gave up on trying to sleep. Sitting in his penthouse office overlooking a city still asleep, he began to plan his investigation. As the CEO of Thompson Enterprises, he had the resources and connections to find Emily. The question was, where to start? He picked up his phone and dialed a number he rarely used. "Marcus, it's Jack Thompson. I know it's early, but I need an urgent favor." Marcus Chen was his trusted private investigator, responsible for all the company's major due diligences. If anyone could find Emily, it was him. "I need you to locate my sister, Emily Thompson. Last known address was in Lakeside, but that was 8 years ago." While waiting for Marcus's initial findings, Jack dove into his own resources. He accessed databases, scoured social media, searched for any digital trace Emily might have left. The initial search turned up little. His sister had always been discreet, and after the fallout, she seemed to have become even more reclusive. The first report from Marcus arrived mid-morning. Emily had moved from Lakeside 6 years ago, after marrying Michael Miller. The twins were born a year later. Jack felt a twinge in his chest. He'd missed his sister's wedding, the birth of his nephews, and so many important milestones. "Mr. Thompson," his assistant interrupted his thoughts, "Dr. Warner is on line too. He says it's about the medical records you requested." Jack hesitated for a moment. Using his influence to access medical records wasn't exactly ethical, but the image of the twins praying wouldn't leave his mind. "Dr. Warner. Yes, I understand confidentiality, but she's my sister." The information came in bits and pieces, each puzzle piece revealing a story that made his heart sink. Emily had been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease 2 years ago. Her condition had deteriorated progressively. She was on the transplant list, but her rare blood type made the wait even more agonizing. That afternoon, Marcus sent a more detailed report. Emily had been working as a teacher at a local elementary school, at least until her medical leave began. Her husband, Michael, was a civil engineer, but had reduced his workload to help care for her and the children. They lived in a modest home in the suburbs, about an hour from the city. Jack examined the surveillance photos Marcus had attached. Emily leaving a dialysis clinic, thinner than he remembered, but still wearing that gentle smile she was known for. The twins, Ethan and Noah, playing in the front yard. Michael helping Emily into the car after a consultation. These were scenes of a family life he had excluded himself from, or rather, that he had rejected in a moment of anger and pride. The words of that last argument still burned in his memory, but now they felt so insignificant compared to the gravity of the situation. By the end of the day, he had all the necessary information: current address, medical routine, the family's financial situation. The reports showed that Emily and Michael had recently taken a mortgage on their house, likely to cover growing medical expenses. Jack stood up and walked to his office window. The sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky with the same hues he'd seen at the cemetery the day before. Somewhere not too far away, his sister was fighting a serious illness while her children prayed for a miracle. He picked up the phone once more. "Marcus, I need you to do one more thing. I want a full dossier on living kidney donation. Procedures, risks, recovery time, everything." His hand trembled slightly as he filed the reports into a folder. Tomorrow he would visit Emily, but first he needed to process everything he'd discovered. He had to prepare not just for the reunion, but for the possibility that he could be the help his sister so desperately needed. On his way home, he stopped by the cemetery again. The twins' drawing had been carried off by the wind, but the roses he'd left were still there, their white petals glowing in the twilight. "You always said I was too stubborn, Sarah," he murmured to the grave. "But maybe this time that stubbornness can do something good." He returned to his penthouse and spent hours organizing documents, making notes, preparing for every possible scenario of the reunion. How would he explain his sudden appearance? How would he justify the years of silence? How could he offer help without seeming condescending? At midnight, exhausted but determined, Jack finally allowed himself to lie down. Tomorrow would be one of the most important days of his life, the day he would try to fix the greatest mistake he'd ever made. Sleep came gradually, lulled by the hope that it wasn't too late to rebuild the bridges he had burned. In his dreams, he saw Sarah smiling just like the day she introduced him to Emily. "Family is forever," she used to say. It was time to prove she was right. Jack put the latest report from Marcus into his leather briefcase and glanced at the clock. 10 at night. In just a few hours, he would face the moment he'd been avoiding for 8 years. He poured himself a finger of whiskey and walked over to the window of his penthouse, watching the city lights that never seemed to sleep. The amber liquid in his glass reminded him of his father's old liquor cabinet, the same one Emily had fought so hard to keep. Then, like an avalanche, the memories he had locked away for so long burst forth without warning. 8 years ago. Thompson Enterprises didn't yet occupy an entire skyscraper, but it was already impressive enough to intimidate Emily when she walked in that rainy March afternoon. Sarah was with her, as she always was when she sensed the siblings needed to talk. "Jack, we need to discuss our parents' house," Emily had said, her hands nervously clutching a worn purse. "You can't just sell it without consulting me." "Actually, I can," he replied without taking his eyes off the computer screen. "The will named me the sole executor of the estate. It was Dad's decision. But that house, it holds our memories, Jack. Our entire childhood is in there." "Memories don't pay the bills, Emily. The company is expanding, and we need the capital." Sarah, sitting quietly on the office couch, shifted uncomfortably. She always hated when he used that cold, business-like tone, especially with family. "It's not just about money," Emily raised her voice, a rare occurrence for her normally calm demeanor. "You're erasing our history. First it was the antique furniture you auctioned off, then Dad's book collection you sold to a collector. History." Jack finally stood, his voice dripping with bitterness. "What history, Emily? The one where Dad was dying, day by day, while you were halfway around the world chasing your idealistic dreams. The history of Mom asking for you on her deathbed. That's not fair." Tears began forming in Emily's eyes. "I was doing humanitarian work. They said they understood, that they were proud." "Proud?" Jack let out a humorless laugh. "You know what pride is? Building something from scratch, turning a small family business into an empire. That's honoring Dad's legacy, not running away from it." "Jack, please," Sarah intervened gently, rising to stand beside him. "You two are letting old wounds." "Old wounds," Emily interrupted, her voice shaking. "He's always been like this, Sarah. He measures everything in dollars and cents. He even turned our parents' love into a competition. At least I was here." Jack slammed his hands on the desk, making the picture frames wobble. "While you were out saving the world, I was holding Mom's hand during chemotherapy. I was managing Dad's medication, watching him lose his memory day after day." Sarah tried again. "Jack, Your father always said his greatest treasure was having 2 children who— No! Jack cut her off, years of resentment spilling over. Don't give me Dad's platitudes. You don't have that right. You're not really family, Sarah. Being my wife doesn't give you that right. The silence that followed was absolute. Jack saw the exact moment his words struck Sarah like a slap. Emily stepped forward to hug her sister-in-law protectively, her eyes flashing with rage. How dare you? Sarah is more family than you ever were. She never turned love into a numbers game. Leave, Jack said through clenched teeth. Get out of my office. The house will be sold tomorrow, and there's nothing you can do about it. Emily walked to the door, but before leaving, she turned back one last time. Dad used to say you had his eyes, but now, all I see is coldness in them. You haven't just sold our house, Jack. You sold your soul. In the present, Jack set his empty glass on the table, his hands trembling slightly. Sarah never mentioned that afternoon again, but something changed. Over the 3 years that followed, before her death, she tried countless times to bring the siblings back together. On her deathbed, drifting in and out of morphine-induced sleep, she still whispered, "Promise me you'll find Emily. Family is forever." He promised, more to give her peace than because he truly intended to keep it. And after Sarah passed away, loneliness only solidified the walls he'd built around himself. Until yesterday, when 2 small voices in the cemetery tore down all his defenses. Jack picked up his phone and reread Marcus's last message. Address confirmed. 237 Oak Street. Emily usually gets back from dialysis around 10 a.m. Tomorrow. Tomorrow he would face the consequences of his choices, his harsh words, his excessive pride. Tomorrow he would try to fix what he'd broken 8 years earlier. You were right, Sarah, he murmured into the silence of his penthouse. Family is forever, and tomorrow I'm going to prove it. Morning had barely broken when Jack parked his Mercedes on Oak Street. House number 237 looked exactly like it did in Marcus's photos. Modest, well-kept, with a small yard scattered with children's toys, a telltale sign of the twins, a simple swing hung from an old tree, swaying gently in the morning breeze. 9:45. According to Marcus's information, Emily would be back from dialysis soon. Jack adjusted his tie for the 10th time, a nervous habit Sarah used to find amusing. Today he wore a simpler suit, consciously avoiding the ostentation that used to irritate Emily in the past. 10:05. A blue Volkswagen turned the corner, slowing as it approached the house. Jack recognized the man at the wheel from the report photos, Michael Miller, Emily's husband. In the passenger seat, his sister looked exhausted, her head resting against the window. The moment he'd rehearsed mentally dozens of times over the past 24 hours had arrived. Jack stepped out of the car, his legs trembling slightly as he walked toward the driveway. Michael noticed him first, his expression shifting from curiosity to recognition and then to concern. Emily looked up as the car stopped, and for a moment the world seemed to freeze. Jack saw the exact instant she recognized him. Her eyes widened, one hand flew to cover her mouth, and every bit of color drained from her already pale face. "Jack?" Her voice was barely a whisper through the half-open window. Michael quickly got out of the car, positioning himself protectively between them. "Emily, do you want me to ask him to leave?" Emily didn't answer right away. Her eyes, so much like their mother's, studied Jack as if trying to solve a particularly complex puzzle. Finally, she shook her head slightly. "It's okay, Michael." Could you give us a minute?" Michael hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave her alone, but eventually nodded. "I'll be inside if you need me." Before going, he shot Jack a warning glance. The siblings stood in silence for a long time, the weight of 8 years of separation hanging between them like an invisible wall. Emily looked even more fragile up close, her hollowed cheeks and dark circles bearing witness to her ongoing battle. How did you find me?" she finally asked, her voice quivering. Jack took a step forward, stopping when he saw her instinctively recoil. "I saw your children yesterday at the cemetery. They were praying at Sarah's grave." Emily closed her eyes, understanding dawning on her tired face. "The boys, they begged to visit Aunt Sarah. I didn't know you still went there. Every first of the month, Jack replied softly. Just like you. A sob escaped Emily's lips, and before Jack could react, her legs gave way. He moved instinctively, catching her before she fell. That simple physical contact seemed to break a dam. Emily started to cry, her thin arms clinging to her brother's coat as if he might disappear at any second. I'm so sorry, Jack murmured, his own voice choked with emotion. Forgive me, Emily. Please, forgive me. They stayed like that for several minutes, wrapped in an embrace in the driveway, years of hurt and longing dissolving into tears. When Emily finally pulled away, her eyes were red, but there was a new light in them. Do you want to come in? The boys are at school, and I think we have a lot to talk about. Inside, the house felt cozy, decorated with family photos and children's drawings. Jack noticed a framed picture on the living room shelf, an old photo of the last Christmas they all spent together. Sarah stood there, smiling between the siblings. Would you like some coffee? Emily offered, more out of habit than true hospitality. Actually, Jack answered, pulling a folder from his briefcase, I think we need to talk about your health first. Emily froze in mid-step toward the kitchen. How? I know about the kidney disease. I know about the dialysis and the transplant list, Jack said, hesitating. I also know you and Michael refinanced the house to pay for treatment. You had no right, Emily whispered, but there was no anger in her voice, only weariness. Not after all this time. No, I didn't, Jack agreed, sitting on the couch. Just like I had no right to say those horrible things 8 years ago, to hurt you and Sarah the way I did. Emily took a seat in the armchair opposite him, her hands trembling slightly. Why now, Jack? Why after all this time? Because yesterday I heard your children asking Sarah for a miracle. Because they shouldn't have to pray for their mom when they have an uncle who can help. Jack leaned forward. Because Sarah made me promise on her deathbed that I'd find you, and I failed that promise for far too long. Tears welled in Emily's eyes again. She kept trying to bring us back together, even after that terrible fight, until the end. I know. And I was too stubborn, too proud to listen. Jack took a deep breath. Emily, about our parents' house. No, she interrupted softly. It was never about the house, Jack. It was about you turning everything into numbers, assets and liabilities. It was about you forgetting that family can't be calculated on a spreadsheet. And you running off to the other side of the world wasn't just about helping people, Jack replied, without accusation in his voice. It was about escaping Dad's expectations, the pressures, the shadow of the empire he built. Emily nodded slowly. Maybe we were both running and each in our own way. You hid behind the numbers, I hid behind humanitarian causes. Our parents would be disappointed by what we became, Jack murmured. Not by our choices in life, but by how we let them tear us apart. Sarah used to say, Emily smiled sadly, that we were too stubborn for our own good. That one day, it would cost us dearly. And it did, Jack agreed. It cost us years we can't get back. It cost us moments we should have shared, like the birth of the twins. Ethan and Noah, Emily added. They are the light of my life. Even now, with everything so hard, they still find reasons to smile. They're extraordinary, Jack smiled. The drawing they left on Sarah's grave. Emily, why didn't you ever come to me when you got sick? Emily looked away. Pride, maybe, or fear. Fear you'd reject me and hurt the boys, and then it got too late. It's never too late for family, Jack said, quoting Sarah's favorite words. Emily, I want to help. Not out of obligation or guilt, but because you're my sister. Because those wonderful little boys are my nephews. Because it's what Sarah would have wanted. Jack, I can't accept your money. It's not about money, he interrupted gently. It's about family. It's about fixing my mistakes before it's truly too late. Emily covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking in quiet sobs. Jack stood and knelt beside her armchair, taking her hands in his. Let me help, Emily. Let me be your brother again. At that moment, the front door opened and Michael entered, followed by the twins returning from school. They paused, looking curiously at the stranger holding their mother's hands. "Boys," Emily called, wiping her tears. "Come here. I want you to meet someone very special. This is your Uncle Jack." Ethan and Noah approached shyly, their eyes flicking between their mom and the unfamiliar uncle. Jack felt his heart squeeze as he recognized the same faces he'd seen at the cemetery. You're friends with Aunt Sarah?" Noah asked hesitantly. "Yes," Jack replied, his voice thick with emotion. "She was my wife, and she loved you both very much, even though she never got to meet you." The twins exchanged identical looks before both stepped forward to hug him. Jack wrapped his arms around them, tears now streaming freely down his face. Emily watched, her own vision blurred by tears. Michael approached and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Welcome back to the family, brother," Emily whispered. Jack looked up at her over the twins' heads, smiling through his tears. "It's good to be home." The morning sun streamed through the living room windows, lighting up the photo on the shelf where Sarah smiled between the siblings. Somehow, her smile seemed even brighter now. Morning had barely broken when Jack parked his Mercedes on Oak Street. House number 237 looked exactly like it did in the report photos. Modest, well kept, with a small yard scattered with children's toys, proof the twins lived there. A simple swing hung from an old tree, swaying gently in the morning breeze. 9:45. According to Marcus's information, Emily would be back from dialysis soon. Jack adjusted his tie for the 10th time, the same nervous habit Sarah had always found amusing. Today, he wore a simpler suit, purposely avoiding the showiness that used to annoy Emily so much in the past. 10:05. A blue Volkswagen turned the corner, slowing down as it approached the house. Jack recognized the driver from the report's photos, Michael Miller, Emily's husband. In the passenger seat, his sister looked exhausted, her head resting against the window. The moment he had rehearsed dozens of times in his mind over the past 24 hours had finally arrived. Jack got out of his car, legs trembling slightly as he walked toward the driveway. Michael noticed him first, his expression shifting from curiosity to recognition to concern. Emily lifted her eyes when the car stopped, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Jack saw the exact instant she recognized him. Her eyes widened, her hand flew to cover her mouth, and all color drained from her already pale face. "Jack," she whispered through the partially open window. Michael quickly exited the car, positioning himself protectively between the siblings. "Emily, do you want me to ask him to leave?" Emily didn't immediately respond. Her eyes, so similar to their mother's, scanned Jack like he was an unsolved riddle. Finally, she gave a small shake of her head. "It's fine, Michael. Could you give us a minute?" Michael hesitated, clearly unwilling to leave her alone, but eventually he nodded. "I'll be inside if you need me." Before going, he shot Jack a warning look. The siblings remained silent for long moments, the weight of 8 years of separation looming between them like an unseen wall. Emily looked even more fragile up close, her cheeks hollowed and her eyes ringed with dark circles that spoke of her struggle. How did you find me?" she finally asked, her voice unsteady. Jack took a step forward, stopping when he saw her recoil slightly. "I saw your kids yesterday at the cemetery. They were praying at Sarah's grave." Emily closed her eyes, understanding settling over her tired features. "The boys, they kept asking to see Aunt Sarah. I didn't know you still went there." "Every first of the month," Jack replied softly, "just like you." A sob escaped Emily's lips. Before Jack could react, her legs gave out. He moved instinctively, catching her before she fell. That physical contact shattered her defenses. Emily began to sob, her thin arms clinging to Jack's coat as though he might vanish at any moment. "I'm sorry," Jack whispered, his own voice raw with emotion. "Forgive me, Emily. Please forgive me." They remained like that for several minutes, hugging in the driveway, years of anger and longing dissolving in tears. When Emily finally pulled back, her eyes were red, but they held a new light. "Do you want to come inside? The boys are at school, and I think we have a lot to talk about." The interior of the house was warm and welcoming, filled with family photos and children's art. Jack noticed a framed picture on the living room shelf, an old snapshot of the last Christmas they all spent together. Sarah was there, smiling between the siblings. "Would you like some coffee?" Emily offered, more as a routine gesture than a real invitation. "Actually," Jack said, pulling a folder from his briefcase, "I think we need to discuss your health first." Emily froze halfway to the kitchen. "How? I know about the kidney disease. I know about the dialysis, the transplant list," Jack said, hesitating. "I also know you and Michael refinanced your house to pay for treatment." "You had no right," Emily murmured, but her voice held no anger, only exhaustion. "Not after all this time." "You're right, I didn't," Jack agreed, sitting on the couch. "Just like I had no right to say those horrible things 8 years ago, to hurt you and Sarah like that." Emily lowered herself into the opposite armchair, her hands trembling slightly. "Why now, Jack? Why after so long?" "Because yesterday, I heard your sons asking Sarah for a miracle." "Because they shouldn't have to pray for their mother when they have an uncle who can help," Jack leaned forward. "Because Sarah made me promise on her deathbed that I'd find you, and I've broken that promise for far too long." Emily's tears returned. "She kept trying to bring us together, even after that terrible fight. Until the end." "I know. And I was too stubborn, too proud to listen." Jack took a deep breath. "Emily, about our parents' house." "No," she interrupted gently. "It was never about the house, Jack. It was about you reducing everything to numbers, assets, and liabilities. It was about you forgetting that family can't be calculated on a spreadsheet. And you going to the other side of the world wasn't just about helping others," Jack said without accusation. "It was about escaping Dad's expectations and the shadow of the empire he built." Emily nodded slowly. Maybe we were both running, each in our own way. You hid behind the numbers, I behind humanitarian work. Mom and Dad would be disappointed by who we've become," Jack murmured. "Not by our chosen paths, but by letting them tear us apart." "Sarah used to say," Emily smiled sadly, "that we were too stubborn for our own good, that one day it would cost us dearly." "And it did," Jack agreed. "It cost us years we can't get back. It cost us moments we should have shared, like the twins' birth." "Ethan and Noah," Emily said. "They are the light of my life. Even now, with everything so hard, they find reasons to smile." "They're amazing," Jack smiled. "The drawing they left at Sarah's grave. Emily, why didn't you reach out to me when you got sick?" Emily avoided his eyes. Pride, maybe, or fear. Fear you'd reject me, that you'd hurt the boys. And after that, it felt like it was too late. "It's never too late for family," Jack repeated Sarah's mantra. "Emily, I want to help. Not out of guilt or obligation, but because you're my sister. Because your wonderful boys are my nephews. Because it's what Sarah would have wanted." "Jack, I can't accept your money." "It's not about money," he interrupted gently. "It's about family. It's about fixing my mistakes before it really is too late." Emily covered her face with both hands, her shoulders trembling with restrained sobs. Jack stood and knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "Let me help, Emily. Let me be your brother again." Just then, the front door opened and Michael entered with the twins, who had just returned from school. The boys paused, staring curiously at the stranger holding their mother's hands. "Boys," Emily called, wiping her tears, "come here. I want you to meet someone very special. This is your Uncle Jack." Ethan and Noah approached timidly, their eyes moving from their mom to this unknown man. Jack's heart constricted when he recognized the same expressions he'd seen in the cemetery. Are you Aunt Sarah's friend?" Noah asked carefully. "Yes," Jack answered, his voice thick with emotion. "She was my wife, and she loved you very much, even though she never got to meet you." The twins exchanged looks, then in unison ran forward to hug him. Jack wrapped them in his arms, tears rolling freely down his cheeks now. Emily watched through tear-filled eyes. Michael came closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Welcome back to the family, brother," Emily whispered. Jack looked at her over the boys' heads, smiling through his tears. "It's good to be home." The morning sun shone through the living room windows, illuminating the photo where Sarah smiled between her in-laws. Somehow, her smile seemed even brighter now. 3 days after their reunion, Jack arranged a meeting that would change the course of his family's life. Dr. Warner's office, one of the most renowned nephrologists in the country, was silent on that Saturday morning. Emily sat between Jack and Michael, her fingers nervously intertwined in her lap, while the twins played quietly on tablets in a corner. "Emily, Dr. Warner began, adjusting his glasses as he studied a series of test results. "Your brother reached out to discuss more advanced treatment options for your case. I'd like to present some possibilities that, until now, weren't available." Emily cast an uncertain glance at Jack, who nodded encouragingly. Michael squeezed her hand. "There's a new dialysis technique developed in Switzerland," the doctor continued, "which has shown exceptional results in cases like yours. The equipment isn't widely available yet, but..." He paused meaningfully. "Mr. Thompson has arranged for one to be imported to our clinic." "Jack," Emily exclaimed, turning abruptly to her brother. "You can't just..." "I can," Jack interrupted softly. "And I already did. The machine arrives in 2 weeks, but that's just the start of the treatment plan we've put together." Dr. Warner opened a folder on his desk, revealing a detailed schedule. "In addition to the new dialysis technique, we propose a combined protocol with state-of-the-art medications. This should greatly improve your quality of life while we wait for a compatible donor." "But the cost," Emily began, her voice shaking, "is not up for discussion," Jack stated firmly. "You're my sister, Emily. Please let me do this. For you, for the boys, for Sarah." Hearing Sarah's name, Emily closed her eyes, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. Noah, sensing his mother's emotion, put his tablet down and ran to hug her. "Mom, don't cry," he whispered. "Uncle Jack is going to help you get better, just like Aunt Sarah asked." Ethan also approached, his big eyes fixed on the colorful schedule on the desk. "Is it like a treasure map, Mom? To find the medicine that'll make you better?" Jack felt his heart tighten at his nephew's innocence. "Yes, Ethan, it's our map to help your mom get healthy again." Dr. Warner smiled gently at the children before continuing. "We'll start the new protocol next week. We'll need to run several preparatory tests first. Mr. Thompson has arranged for you to have a private room in our treatment wing, with space for your family to stay with you during sessions." "What about my job?" Emily asked, worry coloring her voice. "And the kids?" "I've taken care of that too," Jack interjected. "I spoke with the school principal. They're going to keep your teaching position, granting you paid medical leave for as long as you need. And as for the twins," he smiled at them, "how about spending some afternoons with your uncle after school? My office has a playroom that's never been used." The boy's eyes lit up at the idea, but it was Michael who spoke. "Jack, this is more than we could have dreamed of. But I don't want Emily feeling pressured. This is a lot of change at once." Jack nodded, sympathetic. "I understand, and I promise we'll go at your pace. But Emily," he turned to his sister, "please, let me help. Not as the CEO of Thompson Enterprises, but as your brother." As the boy's uncle, Emily looked at the faces around her, her worried husband, her hopeful children, her determined brother, the patient doctor. In each of them, she saw a reflection of the love Sarah always insisted kept the family together, even in the hardest times. "Okay," she finally agreed, her voice quiet but firm. "But on one condition." "Anything," Jack answered promptly. "You have to promise this isn't just about the treatment, that you'll keep being part of our lives, even if something goes wrong." Jack took her hands in his, eyes misty. "Emily, I've already missed 8 years of your life and the boys' milestones. I'm not missing another day. I'm here to stay. Dr. Warner cleared his throat discreetly, bringing the focus back to practical matters. "Excellent. So we'll begin with the exam schedule. On Monday, we'll..." While the doctor explained the plan in detail, Jack watched the twins crowd around the schedule, asking innocent questions about each colorful step. Emily smiled through her tears. Michael had an arm protectively around her, and for the first time in a long while, true hope filled the air. That evening, after taking Emily and her family home, Jack stopped by the cemetery once more. The sky was exceptionally clear, and the gentle breeze carried a familiar scent, the same perfume Sarah used to wear. "Thank you," he whispered at her gravesite, "for never giving up on us, for sending those little angels to bring me back. I promise I'll take care of them, my love. All of them." A shooting star cut across the sky at that moment, and Jack smiled. Sarah always said there were no coincidences. The following week, the transformation began. The hospital room was decorated with the twins' drawings, colorful images of a reunited family, always with a winged figure smiling from above. Emily started the new treatment, and although it was exhausting, she had a different energy about her. Jack completely rearranged his schedule, delegating responsibilities at the company so he could be there for every important session. On treatment days, he arrived early with breakfast for everyone, including the medical team, who soon became quite fond of the Thompson family. The twins became well known around the hospital, their laughter echoing through the halls as they rushed about with gifts for their mom, drawings, flowers plucked from the garden, stories from school. Jack discovered he had a knack for storytelling, inventing elaborate tales that made his nephews roar with laughter during the long hours of waiting. Michael, initially reserved, began to open up more to his brother-in-law. During a particularly tough night, when Emily reacted strongly to medication, the two men spent hours talking in the hospital cafeteria, sharing fears, hopes, and stories from the past. "You know," Michael said, absent-mindedly spinning his coffee cup, "Emily saved every bit of news about you over the years, every headline about your business successes, every magazine photo. She never stopped being proud of her brother, even while she was hurt." Jack felt tears burning his eyes. "And I missed so much. The boys' first steps, birthdays, Christmases. It's never too late to make new memories," Michael replied with a smile. "The boys are already planning a surprise party for when Emily finishes this phase of treatment. They insist it has to be at your penthouse because, according to Ethan, Uncle Jack has the best view to see Aunt Sarah in the sky." The new treatment protocol continued, week after week. Lab results began to show slow but steady improvement. Dr. Warner remained hopeful yet cautious in his predictions. The Swiss dialysis machine proved its worth, providing more efficient sessions with fewer side effects. 1 month after starting treatment, Jack arranged a surprise. Using old photos and the stories Emily told the boys, he transformed one of the hospital room walls into a family timeline. Pictures of their parents, of the siblings' childhood, moments with Sarah, and blank spaces labeled future memories, ready to be filled in with new milestones. Emily cried when she saw the wall, but these were tears of a different kind now. Tears of hope, of healing, of a family reunited. The twins spent hours studying the pictures, asking questions about each one, weaving connections between the past and present with the profound simplicity of children. "Look, Mom," Ethan exclaimed one day, pointing to an old photo. "Uncle Jack has the same smile as Grandpa. And Aunt Sarah had the same golden hair you do, Mom," Noah added proudly, noting the resemblance. The medical staff noticed the difference family support made in Emily's treatment. She responded better to medication, her energy levels rose, and even her blood pressure stabilized. Dr. Warner commented that he'd never seen a patient so thoroughly cared for. "Family love," he said during a consultation, "is sometimes the best prescription we can give." One afternoon, while Emily was resting after dialysis, Jack found the twins whispering in the hallway, huddled over a piece of paper. "What are you up to, little ones?" he asked, curious. "We're making a list," Noah answered seriously, "of all the things we'll do when Mom gets better." "Can we show you?" Ethan asked, his eyes shining. Jack sat down on the floor with them, and his heart melted as he read the items in their childlike handwriting. Picnic in the park party at Uncle Jack's place, trip to the beach, Christmas all together, visit Aunt Sarah to say thank you. "This is a very special list," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. "Can we add a few more things?" The boys nodded enthusiastically, and soon the three were lost in plans for the future, their laughter echoing through the corridor. Emily, awakened by the noise, watched from the door, her heart brimming with love and gratitude. That night, after everyone had left, she opened her diary, a gift from Sarah years before, and wrote, "Dear Sarah, you were right. Family is forever. And now, at last, we're all together again. Thank you for never giving up on us, even after you left. Your little angels brought Jack back, and with him they brought hope. With love, Emily." The next day, when Jack arrived for another treatment session, he found the twins napping on the hospital room sofa, each holding one of their mother's arms, while Michael worked quietly on his laptop. The scene felt so natural, so right, that for a moment Jack sensed Sarah beside him, smiling that "I knew you could do it" smile. The new treatment protocol entered its most intensive phase. Mornings at the clinic started early, with Emily hooked up to the Swiss dialysis machine, while Jack and Michael took turns keeping her company. The twins, well adjusted to the new routine, turned the hospital room into their second home, filling it with drawings and stories. One morning, as Emily rested after a particularly tough session, Jack took the twins to the hospital cafeteria. It had become a ritual: hot chocolate for them, coffee for him, and lots of stories. "Uncle Jack," Ethan began, wiping chocolate foam off his upper lip, "tell us again how you met Aunt Sarah." It was the third time that week they'd asked for the story, but Jack never tired of telling it. As he described their chance encounter in a bookstore, he watched his nephew's rapt expressions, so much like Emily's when she was little. "And Mom?" Noah interrupted at his favorite part. "Did she like Aunt Sarah from the beginning?" "From the very first moment," Jack smiled at the memory. "Sarah had this gift for winning people over. She was the one who convinced your mom to follow her dream of becoming a teacher, you know." The twins exchanged surprised looks. "But Mom has always been a teacher," Ethan protested. "Not always," Jack explained, seizing the moment to learn more about his nephew's lives. "And you two, did you always study at her school?" Noah shook his head. "We only went there after she got sick. It was easier for her to drop us off and pick us up." "We used to live in another town," Ethan added. "It was small, lots of fields. Dad built bridges." Jack absorbed every detail, filling in the gaps of the lost years. He learned the twins had been born premature, that Emily's pregnancy had been difficult, that Michael had abandoned an important project to care for her at the time, that the first signs of kidney disease appeared soon after the birth. "Mom always says we're special," Noah commented, fiddling with his straw, "because Aunt Sarah sent us from heaven to take care of her." Jack's heart clenched. Emily had never mentioned pregnancy complications in the medical reports he had. How many other battles had she fought on her own? Back in the room, they found Emily awake, talking to Dr. Warner about her latest tests. The doctor's neutral, professional expression was one Jack recognized. Something wasn't progressing as hoped. "The creatinine levels remain high," Dr. Warner explained, pointing to a chart, "and her blood pressure is unstable despite medication." Emily nodded, already accustomed to medical jargon, but Jack noticed how her fingers clutched the bedsheet, a nervous habit that reminded him of their mother. "We'll adjust the protocol," Dr. Warner continued, "increase dialysis frequency temporarily and add a new medication for blood pressure." The following days were an emotional roller coaster. The new medication brought severe side effects: constant nausea, dizziness, loss of appetite. Emily tried to remain strong for the boys, but Jack would hear her weeping in the bathroom when she thought no one was around. One night, after tucking the twins into the sofa bed in Emily's room, Jack found Michael in the corridor, his face buried in his hands. "She's not getting better, is she?" Michael asked without looking up. Jack sat beside his brother-in-law. "She's strong, stronger than all of us." "The boys," Michael began, his voice shaking, "they're still so little." "Listen," Jack said, placing a hand on Michael's shoulder. "Emily has all of us now. I won't let anything happen to my sister, to the mother of my nephews." Inside the room, Emily slept restlessly, the medication's effects evident in her pale face. The twins had cozied up on either side of her, as if forming a protective barrier. The following week brought a small victory. Her blood pressure began to stabilize. It was modest but significant progress. Dr. Warner adjusted the medications again, and slowly the worst side effects began to subside. During this period, Jack discovered an unexpected talent for entertaining his nephews during the hardest moments. He devised an elaborate game, turning their mom's treatment into a space mission. The dialysis machine became a spaceship, the meds were star fuel, and each successful exam was another conquered star. "Captain Emily," he'd announce in a solemn voice whenever he entered the room, sending the twins into fits of laughter. "The mission reports indicate we're on the right course." Emily, even on bad days, smiled at their antics. "You would make a great teacher, you know," she remarked one afternoon, watching him help the boys with their homework. "I learned from the best," he replied with a wink. Day by day, the bond between uncle and nephews grew stronger. Jack found out that Ethan had a natural gift for numbers, while Noah was the artist of the family. He began bringing small educational gifts, a painting kit for Noah, math games for Ethan. "Uncle Jack," Noah called one afternoon while painting yet another masterpiece, "why did it take you so long to find us?" The innocent yet profound question caught Jack off guard. He looked over at Emily, who pretended to be asleep, though he knew she was listening closely. "Sometimes," he began carefully, "adults make mistakes because of pride or fear. I made a lot of mistakes, Noah. But now I'm here, and I promise I'm not going anywhere." "Aunt Sarah would be happy," Ethan commented, eyes never leaving his puzzle. "Mom always says she wanted everyone together." Weeks turned into months. The hospital room became a small universe of its own, with routines and rituals. Jack set up a little library in one corner, filled with children's books and games. Michael brought family photos to hang on the walls. The twins had an improvised study area, where they did their schoolwork under the rotating supervision of the three adults. Dr. Warner noted how the positive family environment was aiding Emily's treatment. "In 20 years of medicine," he remarked during a checkup, "I've never seen a patient with such strong support. It makes all the difference." Not everything was smooth sailing. There were nights of high fever, days of intense pain, moments when the medication seemed to do more harm than good. In one of those critical moments, Jack found the twins hiding in the hospital chapel. "Uncle Jack," Noah whispered upon seeing him, "we're asking Aunt Sarah to send more strength for Mom." Jack sat between them on the wooden pew, pulling them close. "You know what your Aunt Sarah always said. That love is the strongest medicine there is." "Stronger than Mom's shots?" Ethan asked, making a face. "Much stronger," Jack replied, smiling. "And you two are living proof of that. Since you were born, you've been the most important medicine for your mom." The boys absorbed this information with the kind of seriousness only children can muster. That night, they insisted on reading bedtime stories to Emily, reversing the usual roles. Jack watched from the doorway, amazed at his nephew's natural wisdom. As the treatment advanced, Emily began to have more good days than bad. On mornings, she felt stronger. She'd give the boys little lessons, turning the room into a makeshift classroom. Jack often found himself watching these sessions, admiring his sister's passion for teaching under such difficult circumstances. "Remember when you said I was running from the family business by becoming a teacher?" Emily asked him one afternoon, after the boys fell asleep. "I think I finally understand why Dad always said teaching was the noblest profession." Jack took her hand. "He would be proud of you, Emily, of what you've built, of the teacher you've become, of the wonderful mother you are." One day, during an especially long dialysis session, the twins asked to hear stories about the grandparents they never knew. Jack and Emily took turns sharing childhood memories, laughing at long-forgotten adventures, crying at bittersweet recollections. "You're a lot like them," Emily told her sons. "Ethan has Grandpa's smile, and Noah has Grandma's determination. And both are just as stubborn as their mom," Jack teased, making everyone laugh. That was when Dr. Warner entered the room, his face more solemn than usual. He held a folder with Emily's latest test results in his hands. "We need to talk it," he said, and the tone of his voice made Jack realize a new stage of the battle was about to begin. Dawn arrived with a thick fog over the city, as though the sky itself shared the sense of apprehension. In Dr. Warner's office, silence reigned except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional rustle of papers. Jack surveyed the stack of test results on the doctor's desk. Each page, each graph telling the story of Emily's fight. Michael sat with an arm protectively around Emily, who shifted uncomfortably in her chair. The twins, for the first time since treatment began, had stayed at school. A difficult decision, but necessary given the nature of this meeting. Jack could feel the weight of their absence. The room felt more sterile, more hospital-like, without their laughter and colorful drawings. "Emily, Dr. Warner began, removing his glasses, an unmistakable sign he was about to deliver serious news. "These latest tests present a scenario we need to discuss frankly." He picked up the first report, where red and blue graphs formed ominous lines. "Your kidney function continues to decline despite the intensive protocol. Your creatinine levels are persistently high, and your glomerular filtration rate has dropped below 15%. Emily squeezed Michael's hand tightly. "What does that mean, practically speaking, doctor?" "It means we've reached a critical point. Dialysis, even with the most advanced equipment, is no longer enough to keep your levels stable. Your body is finding it increasingly difficult to eliminate toxins, and other organs are now being affected." Jack felt a knot tighten in his throat. "What are our options?" "At this stage," Dr. Warner answered, folding his hands on the desk, "we really only have one viable option, a kidney transplant. And we need to do it within the next 3 months, while Emily is still strong enough to undergo surgery." Dr. Warner then began detailing the clinical picture, using technical terms that had become part of their everyday vocabulary in recent weeks. He showed them tests revealing the increasing buildup of toxins in her blood, the stress on her heart, the early signs of liver strain. "The good news," he continued, "is that a successful transplant can reverse almost all these issues. With a healthy kidney, Emily could return to a normal life, go back to teaching, watch her children grow up, live without dependency on dialysis." "But the waiting list," Emily began, her voice trembling. "Could take years," Jack finished. "And with your rare blood type—" "Exactly," Dr. Warner agreed. "That's why we must seriously consider a living donor transplant. The success rate is significantly higher, and we could schedule it before her condition worsens further." Michael cleared his throat, his voice raspy. "I already offered to be a donor. We did tests last month, but—" "What?" Jack interrupted, turning sharply to face them. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I'm not compatible," Michael explained, frustration evident in his tone. "And you'd already done so much, Jack. We didn't want—" "No," Jack stood, his decision evident in every word. "No more shielding me. Dr. Warner, I want to do all the compatibility tests, starting now." The doctor studied Jack for a long moment before nodding. "As siblings, you have a higher probability of a match. But I must be very clear about the risks and implications." For the next 40 minutes, Dr. Warner spelled out the entire process, the numerous required tests, from basic blood work to complex genetic screenings, the risks of surgery, the lifestyle changes following donation, the recovery period. The following weeks became a marathon of medical exams. Jack essentially moved into the hospital, splitting his time between Emily's room, blood draws, bore imaging tests, and consultations with specialists. Each test brought a new wave of anxiety. Every partial result was met with bated breath. The twins, shielded from the technical details, still sensed the changed atmosphere. One night, as Jack drove them home after visiting their mum, Noah asked the question he'd been holding on to. "Uncle Jack, are you going to give Mum a little piece of you so she gets better?" The innocent phrasing almost made Jack lose control of the car. "How do you know that, buddy?" "We heard Nurse Rose talking," Ethan explained. "She said you're doing a bunch of tests to see if you can help Mum." Jack parked, turning to face the boys. "Yes, I'm trying to help her, but we still don't know if it'll work." "It will," Noah stated, with the unshakable certainty only children have. "Aunt Sarah will help." That night, after dropping the boys off with Michael, Jack went to the cemetery again. It was a frequent occurrence now, especially before important test results. "Tomorrow we get the final results, love," he whispered to Sarah's grave. "If I'm a match." "Well, you always said Emily and I were more alike than we wanted to admit." The day of the final result dawned under a thin drizzle. Jack had barely slept, tossing in bed as he imagined all the possibilities. The meeting with Dr. Warner was set for 9 o'clock, but he arrived at the hospital by 7, unable to wait at home. Emily was already there, pale from another difficult night of dialysis. Michael dozed in a chair next to her, dark circles under his eyes betraying sleepless nights. For the first time in weeks, the twins insisted on staying home from school so they could be here. At exactly 9 hours, Dr. Warner entered the room, carrying a folder that seemed thicker than usual. The silence that followed was deafening. "Well," the doctor began, a small smile forming behind his mask, "it appears we have good news." Jack felt his knees go weak. Emily let out a quiet sob. "The match is nearly perfect," Dr. Warner continued, opening the folder to reveal the results. "All the main markers line up. The tissue typing is excellent, and the cross-match showed no adverse reactions." "So that means," Emily began, her voice failing, "that means your brother can be your donor, yes?" "In fact, it's rare to see such a good match, even among siblings." The twins, who had been unusually silent, burst into excited cheers. Noah jumped into Jack's arms, while Ethan hugged his mother carefully, mindful of her dialysis tubes. "So," Jack said, his voice shaking with emotion, "when can we schedule the surgery?" Dr. Warner assumed his professional demeanor again. "We need to run a few final tests on you, Jack, and adjust Emily's protocol to prepare her for the transplant. But if everything goes well, we can schedule it for 3 weeks from now." 3 weeks, Emily echoed, as if testing the sound of the words. "Jack, are you sure? Absolutely sure." Jack walked to his sister's bedside and took her hand in both of his. "Emily, these past months I've watched you fight with everything you've got. I've seen your kids praying for a miracle. I've witnessed our family's love overcoming years of anger and distance. How could I not be sure?" Michael, silent until then, stood and embraced his brother-in-law. No words were needed. The gesture said it all. Dr. Warner cleared his throat discreetly. "I'll give you some time to process the news. We'll start the preparations tomorrow." As soon as the doctor left, the twins began making plans. "We can have a party when Mom gets better," Ethan exclaimed, "and Uncle Jack can stay with us forever," Noah added. Emily laughed through her tears. "I think your uncle still needs to work, honey." "Actually," Jack grinned, "I've already spoken with the company board. I'm taking 3 months leave after the surgery. Enough time to recover and to make up for lost time with my family." That afternoon, after the twins were finally coaxed to go home with Michael, Emily and Jack were left alone in the hospital room. The rhythmic hum of the dialysis machine was the only sound for a long while. "Jack," Emily finally broke the silence, "do you remember the last Christmas before the argument, when Sarah insisted on making that huge dinner? How could I forget? She burned the turkey, and we ended up ordering pizza. She said something that night while you were on the phone with some business emergency. She said that one day you'd understand some things are more important than career success." Jack felt tears sting his eyes. "She was always the wisest of the 3 of us." "Thank you," Emily whispered. "Not just for the kidney, but for coming back, for being my brother again." "I've always been your brother, Emily. I got lost for a while." They fell silent again, but it was a different kind of silence this time, one filled with promise, hope, and a future. Through the hospital window, a sunbeam broke through the clouds, casting a rainbow on the fogged glass. Jack smiled, recalling how Sarah always said rainbows were signs of angels smiling. As he watched his sister drift off to sleep, exhausted but at peace, he could almost feel her smile, blessing this new beginning. 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, they would face the most challenging part of this journey. But for the first time in a long while, fear had yielded to hope. In 3 weeks, it wouldn't just be a kidney transplant, it would be an entire family being reborn. "You were right, Sarah," Jack whispered to the rainbow. "Family is forever, and this time, I won't forget." The morning of the surgery dawned bright and unusually clear, as though the universe itself conspired to shine light on this crucial day. Jack had been at the hospital since $5, following every step of the pre-op protocol he had memorized over the past weeks. Absolute fasting, a special antiseptic shower, no personal items except Sarah's wedding ring, which Nurse Rose had promised to keep safe. In the room next door, Emily was also being prepped, surrounded by Michael and the twins, who had special permission from Dr. Warner to stay with her until it was time. The medical team moved with quiet efficiency, checking vitals, adjusting medications, verifying each detail of the preparations with near-military precision. "Uncle Jack," Noah exclaimed upon seeing him at the door already in a hospital gown, "we made you a good luck picture." Ethan held out a sheet of paper they had worked on all night. It was an ambitious piece of artwork for 5-year-olds. The whole family was represented, including a winged figure clearly meant to be Sarah, hovering over 2 hospital beds decorated with hearts and stars. In the corner, written in carefully traced childish letters, it said, "Our family is stronger than anything." Jack felt tears in his eyes as he carefully tucked the drawing under his pillow. "It's the most powerful good luck charm I could ever have," he said, embracing his nephews. Dr. Warner appeared promptly at 7, accompanied by his core team, Dr. Chen, the assisting surgeon, Dr. Maria, the nephrologist, and Lisa, the head surgical nurse. "It's time," he announced gently. "We need to do the final steps." The twins hugged their mother first, a delicate embrace they had learned to give her over the past months. Then they ran to Jack. "Come back soon, okay?" Ethan whispered, squeezing his uncle tightly. "Faster than you think, buddy," Jack assured him, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Take good care of your mum while I'm asleep, all right?" "We promise," Noah said solemnly, "and Aunt Sarah will take care of both of you from up there." The medical team guided Emily out first. As Jack watched her being wheeled down the corridor, he remembered their conversation the previous night, after everyone else had gone home. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked for the 100th time, fear shining behind her eyes. "I'm more certain of this than any decision I've ever made," he had replied, and he meant it. "Tomorrow is just the first day of the rest of our lives, and sis." In the operating suite, teams worked in perfectly choreographed unison, like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Dr. Warner personally oversaw both operating rooms, connected by an internal hallway designated for transplants. Jack watched the overhead fluorescent lights pass by as they rolled him in, the distinct hospital smell stronger than ever. "Count backward from 10D, the anesthesiologist instructed, placing a mask over his face. Her badge said, Dr. Patricia, and her gentle smile was the last thing Jack consciously remembered. 10, 9, 8. Jack thought of Sarah, Emily, the twins. 7, 6. The room began to blur, the edges of his vision softening. 5. His final impression was of a familiar smile hovering above him, unsure if it belonged to Dr. Patricia or Sarah. In the waiting room, Michael tried to keep the twins occupied with games and stories. He'd brought their favorite books, tablets loaded with educational apps, and even special snacks prepared by a neighbor. But nothing could fully dispel the anxiety that hung in the air. Each time the door opened, all eyes turned hopefully, only to face more waiting. The hours dragged on like days. 4 hours passed, then 5, then 6. Dr. Warner had warned them the procedure would be lengthy, first removing Jack's kidney, a meticulous operation requiring absolute precision to preserve blood vessels and the ureter. Then the actual transplant in Emily, where every suture and connection had to be flawless. "Why is it taking so long?" Noah asked for the 10th time, his small voice revealing the fear he was trying to hide. "Because the doctors are being extremely careful," Michael explained patiently. "It's like putting together that 1,000-piece puzzle of yours. You have to fit every piece just right." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Warner emerged through the waiting room door, still in his surgical attire. Even with most of his face covered by a mask, his smile told the story before he spoke. "The surgery was a success," he announced, taking off his cap. Jack's kidney was successfully implanted and started working on the operating table. Emily began producing urine immediately, which is an excellent sign. "She's responding very well and Jack is stable." The twins exploded with joy, jumping and hugging one another. Michael sank into a chair, silent tears rolling down his cheeks, the tension of years finally finding release. "When can we see them?" Ethan asked eagerly, tugging on the doctor's coat. "Emily will remain in ICU for the next 24 hours for close monitoring. Jack should wake up in a few hours and will be allowed brief visits tomorrow." The most critical period is the first 48 hours, where we watch for any signs of rejection. In the ICU, Emily drifted between consciousness and dreams, wrapped in layers of painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs. In her more lucid moments, she heard the steady beep of monitors, sensed the silent presence of nurses, caught snippets of technical discussions about renal function and stable vitals. In her dreams, she saw Sarah, not in the feverish nightmares of the past months, but smiling, radiant, waving from a place full of light. "Take good care of him," Sarah said in her dreams. "Take good care of the piece of him that's now yours." Jack was the first to fully wake, about 6 hours after surgery. The pain was significant, even with medication. But his first question was about Emily. "Your sister's doing very well," Nurse Rose assured him, adjusting his IV. The kidney started functioning immediately, which is a great sign. She produced over 100 milliliters of urine in the first hour after the transplant. The next day, during short visiting periods, the twins took turns going between Jack's and Emily's rooms, serving as enthusiastic messengers between the siblings. "Mum told me to tell you you're the best brother in the world," Noah reported solemnly to Jack, holding his hand carefully to avoid disturbing the IV line. "And Uncle Jack said you should stop crying or you'll dehydrate the new kidney," Ethan announced to Emily, drawing a soft laugh from her. The first week was a test of patience and hope. Each day brought new challenges: pain management, adjusting immunosuppressants, continuous monitoring for rejection signs, the first unsteady walks along the hallways. But there were also small victories. The first genuine smile from Emily as her test results improved. The first time Jack managed to sit up on his own. The consistently positive reports on her kidney function. On the 10th day, Emily was finally allowed to visit Jack. Michael wheeled her to his room, the twins trailing behind like a small royal entourage, clutching new drawings and cards made at school. "Hey, donor," Jack joked weakly when he saw her, his voice still hoarse from intubation. "Hey, hero," she replied, tears gleaming in eyes that already looked brighter, healthier. No words were needed. The look they exchanged said everything: gratitude, love, hope, unspoken promises of a future that now seemed possible. The twins, sensing the moment's importance, stayed quiet for once, just watching. "Aunt Sarah must be so happy," Noah said after a while, his childlike wisdom breaking the silence. "I'm sure she is, sweetheart," Emily replied, reaching out to hold her brother's hand. "I'm absolutely sure." That night, once everyone had gone, Jack watched the crescent moon through the hospital window. The pain was constant, but it was a different kind of pain now, one that had meaning, that signified life. Every twinge reminded him of the miracle they'd accomplished together. In her own room, Emily gazed at the same moon, feeling life flow through her veins in a way she hadn't for a long time. Jack's kidney beat inside her like a promise for the future, a physical piece of the fraternal love they'd rekindled. Dr. Warner had explained that the next few months would be critical: a strict medication schedule, frequent checkups, constant vigilance for any rejection signs. Emily would have to relearn how to live, no longer tethered to dialysis, but with new guidelines to protect the precious gift she had received. Jack had his own journey of recovery ahead. His body needed to adapt to functioning with one kidney, to find a new equilibrium. But whenever he thought of his nephew's smiles, of his sister's renewed lightness, he knew every moment of pain was worth it. Early the next morning, as the first sunlight painted the sky, they both received welcome news. The latest tests showed improving renal function, with no signs of rejection. "It's as though the kidney has always been hers," Dr. Warner remarked, genuinely impressed. The compatibility is truly remarkable. The twins, and who arrived early with Michael, celebrated the news in the most fitting way, covering both rooms with more drawings, each depicting a bright future for their reunited family. Recovery would still be a long road. There would be difficult days ahead, medication adjustments, moments of fear and doubt. But in that moment, under the newborn sun, the Thompson family stood stronger than ever. And somewhere, beyond the pale blue of the morning sky, Sarah smiled, knowing that her final wish had come true. The family was complete again, united by bonds stronger than blood, deeper than life itself. 3 months after the transplant, the Miller home was unrecognizable. The room once filled with medical equipment was now a cozy office where Emily planned her return to teaching. The walls, previously adorned with medication schedules, now displayed new photos, precious snapshots taken throughout the healing process. True to his word, Jack had taken an extended leave and became a regular part of their daily lives. Each morning, he arrived in time to drive his nephews to school, cherishing every minute in the car as they shared their stories and dreams. "Uncle Jack," Ethan asked one day, "will you keep coming once you go back to work?" "Maybe not every single day," Jack admitted honestly, "but I promise I'll be there for all the important moments. And the not-so-important ones too." "Like my soccer game on Friday?" Noah asked, his eyes filled with hope. "Especially your soccer game." Even Dr. Warner was impressed by Emily's recovery during her most recent checkup. He studied her tests with a broad smile. "It's remarkable," he said, displaying the results. "Your kidney function is perfect. Your creatinine levels are completely normal. It's as if this kidney was always yours." "It always was," Emily replied softly, squeezing Jack's hand. "It just took a while to find its way to me. Weekends became sacred family time." Jack turned his penthouse into the new gathering spot, equipping it with games, books, and all sorts of activities the twins could dream of. The guest room became the twins' room, decorated in their favorite colors and stocked with their toys. On one of those Saturday afternoons, while Michael and Jack handled the grill on the balcony, Emily watched her children play in the living room. There was a lightness about them now, like an invisible weight had been lifted from their small shoulders. "They seem different, don't they?" Michael remarked, sitting beside her. "Lighter. The whole family feels different," she replied. "It's as if we're finally complete." In the kitchen, Jack was assembling a salad when he noticed Ethan watching him thoughtfully from the doorway. "What's up, buddy?" "Uncle Jack, do you think Aunt Sarah would be happy seeing us like this?" Jack paused, caught off guard by the question. He crouched down to look Ethan in the eye. "You know, your Aunt Sarah always said family was the most important thing in the world. She wouldn't just be happy. She'd be proud to see how we all found each other again." That evening, after dinner, it became tradition to gather on the balcony. Emily, now able to enjoy small pleasures once impossible, savored a glass of wine while the boys recounted their adventures at school. Jack watched it all, his heart brimming with gratitude. Future plans formed naturally. Emily decided to return to teaching part-time at first, with Jack insisting on hiring a driver to take her to and from work. The twins were eagerly awaiting summer vacation, 2 weeks of which they'd spend at the beach house Jack had bought especially for the family. "You didn't need a whole house," Emily protested when he showed her the photos. "It's not just a house," Jack countered. "It's a place to make new memories." Jack's return to his work routine was gradual. He delegated many responsibilities, reorganized schedules, and insisted on keeping Wednesdays free, officially dubbed Uncle Jack Adventure Day by the twins. Those afternoons were sacred. Sometimes it was a trip to the park, other times a movie day at home, or long talks about everything and nothing. It was during one of these afternoons that Noah made an important observation. "Uncle Jack, you smile just like Mom when you're really happy," he said, studying an old photograph. "And you furrow your brow like her when you're worried," Ethan added. Jack laughed, realizing the twins were right. There was so much of his family in him, so much of him in Emily, so much of their parents in the twins. A continuous cycle of love and inheritance, seen and unseen. Emily's birthday arrived, and Jack organized a special celebration at his penthouse. He turned it into a miniature garden, replicating their parents' backyard, where so many happy memories had been made. "How did you remember all these details?" Emily asked, moved to tears as she touched the white roses, their mother's favorites. "Sarah," Jack replied simply. "She kept photos of everything and wrote down every detail. I found her albums while I was preparing for the transplant. The party was intimate but meaningful. Dr. Warner and his wife were special guests, as were Nurse Rose and a few close friends. The twins prepared a special performance, a song they'd been practicing for weeks, dedicated to their mom and uncle. "When I grow up," Noah declared during dinner, "I want to be a doctor like Dr. Warner so I can help other families. And I want to be a teacher like Mom," Ethan added, "to teach people to be good to each other." Emily couldn't hold back her tears. Jack hugged her, aware of the kidney they now shared, beating like a second heart between them. The months rolled on, and the new routine solidified. Medical appointments became less frequent, though still crucial. Life found its own pace, a gentler, fuller rhythm. One night, after the twins had fallen asleep following a busy day at the park, Emily found Jack on the balcony, looking out over the city. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, joining him. "How funny life is," he replied. "All that lost time, the resentment, and look where we are now. Sarah always said sometimes you have to lose yourself before you can truly find yourself." She was right, as always. The comfortable silence that followed was full of mutual understanding. Down below, the city pulsed with nightlife, but up here in their little corner of the world, there was only peace. "Jack," Emily broke the silence, "do you regret it? Donating your kidney, turning your life upside down for us?" Jack turned, eyes shining with unwavering certainty. "Emily, before the transplant, I had success, money, power, but I was empty inside. Now I have a family. I have 2 amazing nephews who teach me something new every day. I have my sister back. I have purpose. How could I regret that?" Soft footsteps interrupted them. Noah stood in the balcony doorway, half asleep. "I had a nightmare," he murmured, rubbing his eyes. Jack scooped him up like he did when Noah was smaller. "Want to tell your uncle about it? I dreamed you left us again." "Hey, buddy." Jack kissed the top of his head. "That's never happening." "Uncle's promise." "Pinky swear." Noah extended his little finger. "Pinky swear." Jack hooked his own with his nephew's, exchanging a meaningful glance with Emily. Later, once Noah was back asleep, the siblings stayed on the balcony, sharing memories and dreams. The future stretched before them, no longer a threat but a promise. "You know what's funny?" Emily mused. "For years, I tried to explain to the boys what it was like to have a brother. Now they finally understand. And I finally understand what it means to be an uncle," Jack said with a smile. "It's like being a parent and a best friend at the same time." The night breeze carried the scent of flowers from the balcony garden, white roses, Sarah's favorites. Somewhere beyond the twinkling city stars, she was surely smiling, pleased to see her family fully reunited, finally whole. The next morning arrived with promises of a new day, a new chapter for the Thompson-Miller clan. The twins woke early, eager for another adventure with Uncle Jack. Emily readied herself for another morning at school, her body and spirit renewed. Michael put the finishing touches on a surprise he was planning for their anniversary. And Jack, watching all of this from the kitchen as he cooked breakfast for everyone, felt a peace he had never known before. The emptiness he had carried for so long was finally gone, not filled by success or worldly achievements, but by something infinitely more precious, the love of family. This was a new beginning for them all, a rebirth built on love, sacrifice, and hope. And as the sun rose over the horizon, tinting the sky gold, Sarah's promise echoed in their hearts. Family is forever. 1 year after the transplant, the backyard of the Thompsons' beach house looked completely transformed. Colorful lanterns hung between the trees, their soft lights dancing on the ocean breeze. Tables adorned with white roses, Sarah's favorites, formed a semicircle facing the sea. It was the day of the celebration Emily had meticulously planned, the celebration of life. "Uncle Jack!" Ethan shouted from the porch. "Look what we found in the attic boxes." Jack climbed the wooden steps to see the twins bent over an old photo album. Its yellowed pages held memories he hadn't seen in years. Him and Emily as kids, playing in their parents' yard. The day he met Sarah, the last family Christmas before the fight. "Aunt Sarah kept everything," Noah remarked, carefully tracing a photo of her smiling between the siblings. "Look, she wrote notes on the back of each picture." Jack picked up the photo Noah indicated. On the back, in Sarah's neat handwriting, it read, "Thompson's Christmas 2015. Last Christmas together, but not forever. Love is stronger than pride. One day they'll understand." She always knew, Emily said softly, appearing behind them. Even when we were at odds, she never lost hope. The date had been chosen deliberately, Sarah's birthday. Gradually, guests arrived. Dr. Warner and his wife, Nurse Rose, Emily's colleagues from school, friends who had supported the family through her illness. Michael was at the grill, filling the air with delicious aromas. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky pink and orange, Jack asked for everyone's attention. Dressed in a light suit, something Sarah would have liked, he stepped onto the porch steps. "A year ago," he began, emotion thick in his voice, "we were together in a hospital, surrounded by fear but clinging to hope. Today, we gather to celebrate not just life, but the love that brought us to this moment." Emily joined him, radiant in her blue dress, the color that had always been her signature. "Sarah," she continued, "my sister-in-law, my friend, my sister by heart, always said that family is forever. Even when we didn't believe it, she believed it for us." The twins, wearing matching suits, climbed the steps carrying a large covered frame. With synchronized motions, they revealed their secret gift, a collage of photographs forming Sarah's smiling face. "We used all the photos we could find," Ethan explained proudly, "and we did it in her favorite colors." Tears welled in Jack's eyes. Sarah's face, formed by hundreds of joyful moments captured in pictures, seemed to beam straight into his soul. Michael came forward holding a large, time-worn envelope. "We found this among Sarah's things," he said, handing it to Jack. "She left instructions for it to be opened today." With slightly trembling hands, Jack opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and several sheets of paper. Sarah's familiar handwriting told one last story. "Dear Jack and Emily," he read aloud, "if you're reading this, it means you finally found your way back to each other. I always knew it would happen. The love between you is too strong to be broken by pride or hurt." Emily held her brother's hand as he continued. "Attached, you'll find my final gift to our family. These are deeds to a beachfront lot, the same place where we spent our childhood summers. I bought it years ago, dreaming of the day our family would be together again. It was precisely where they now stood, on land Jack had purchased without knowing its deeper history. It's no coincidence," Sarah's letter went on. "The universe has its own ways of reconnecting what's meant to remain linked. This place was always magical for our family, and now it belongs to you. Build new memories here. Teach the twins to swim in the same waters where you learned. Tell them all the stories, even the sad ones, because they make us who we are. And always remember, love is the most powerful force there is. It heals, transforms, redeems. It can transcend time, distance, and even death. I'm with you in every sunset, in every wave that kisses the shore, in every laugh of the twins, in every moment of joy, and also in sorrow. With all my love, Sarah." Silence fell, broken by Noah pointing at the horizon. "Look, a rainbow." Indeed, a perfect rainbow arched across the ocean. Sarah always said rainbows were signs of angels smiling. The celebration continued late into the night. Dr. Warner gave a heartfelt toast, recalling the journey from diagnosis to that very moment. Nurse Rose shared stories from the hospital days, describing how the twins had won over the entire medical staff with their devotion to their mother. The twins surprised everyone with a special performance, a song they'd rehearsed in secret, dedicated to their mom and uncle. Their little voices singing about love and family moved even the most reserved guests to tears. Later, when most of the guests had gone, the family remained on the beach. The twins played at the water's edge, their laughter echoing in the gentle night breeze. Michael and Emily danced barefoot on the sand to an old tune. Jack watched from the porch, his heart overflowing with gratitude. 1 year ago, he had been alone in his penthouse, calm, surrounded by success but hollow inside. Now, he had a complete family, a purpose, and a new lease on life. Emily joined him. "Sarah would be proud," she said softly, "of all of us." "She is," Jack replied. "In a way, she never truly left." The twins ran up to them, dripping with ocean water and beaming. "Can we sleep here tonight?" Ethan asked. "On the porch under the stars," Noah added hopefully. Mattresses and blankets were brought outside. Soon the whole family was spread out on the spacious porch, the sound of waves serving as a natural lullaby. The twins asked for more Sarah stories, and Jack and Emily took turns telling them, some that made them laugh, others that made them cry. The next morning they woke at sunrise. Emily made coffee while Michael and Jack arranged breakfast on the porch. "What do you think about making this a tradition?" Jack suggested. "Every year on this day we gather here to celebrate life, family, love." "And Aunt Sarah!" the twins shouted in unison from the beach. A new day brought new promises. Emily would soon return to teaching full-time. Jack had reorganized the company to have more time for family. The twins were growing strong and happy, carrying within them the best of all who loved them. And Sarah was present in every moment, every laugh, every hug. Her love had transcended time and distance, uniting this family in ways no one could have foreseen. Later that day, Jack found one last gift from Sarah, a small note tucked inside his old journal, bearing a single sentence, "Love always finds its way home." And there, on that beach where so many stories began and began again, the Thompson family was finally home, redeemed, renewed, complete. A living testament that love, in its purest and most unconditional form, can work the greatest miracles.